Thank you so much for talking with us. We really, really appreciate it. You were saying that you worked in the workhouse, and that was before the famine. You also said it was a bad place to be. It was.
In this episode, we explore strange happenings in Mullingar, County Westmeath. Alongside a tranquil canal, there sits a quiet graveyard that draws the attention of passers-by with its beautiful stone entrance. It is the resting place of 7,000 people who died during the Great Famine. Every year in the month of June, there is a special ceremony held here to remember the famine victims. The famine, also known as the Great Hunger, was a period of starvation, disease, poverty, emigration, and genocide. It began in 1845 with the potato crop failing due to blight. Although there were other food sources in Ireland, these lands and livestock were not used to feed the Irish, but were instead exported to Britain. At the time, Britain governed Ireland and appointed Charles Trevelyan to oversee Irish famine relief. Unfortunately, he believed the judgment of God sent the calamity to teach the Irish a lesson. That calamity must not be too much mitigated. The real evil with which we have to contend is not the physical evil of the famine, but the moral evil of the selfish, perverse, and turbulent character of the people. He also wrote to Lord Monteagle that the famine was an effective mechanism for reducing surplus population. By 1847, mass evictions by absentee British landlords meant people were left destitute and had no choice but to enter the workhouse, where men, women and children were segregated, families never knowing if they'd see each other ever again. In Mullingar, the workhouse, now St. Mary's Care Centre and campus, was overflowing, and buildings all across Mullingar were being used as auxiliary workhouses. Along with starvation came disease such as typhus, dysentery, and cholera. It was rife. The first people buried at the graveyard were cholera victims. They were brought from the workhouse on hand carts. The coffins were made by teenage boys, and due to the volume of deaths, they had to recycle them, with the bodies being dropped into the grave through the coffin bottom, then being brought back to the workhouse for further use. Some people turned to begging, crime, prostitution, even incidences of cannibalism. In Cork, Kerry, Galway and Mayo, an account of Father Peter Ward in 1849 states, "In the village of Drumcaggy, 4 were dead together in a poor hut, brother, 2 sisters and daughter. The flesh was pulled off the daughter's arm and mangled in the mouth of her poor dead mother. Her name was Mary Kennedy. William Walsh of Mount Partry and his son were dead together. Their flesh was torn off their dead bodies by rats and by each other. Flesh was found in their mouths. His wife and child died the week before of hunger." Professor Cormac O'Grada a world authority on the Great Famine, states, "If you don't believe that this happened or could happen, then you don't understand what famine is about." The National Famine Way, now a 167-kilometre walking and cycling trail that spans from Strokestown, County Roscommon to Dublin, is a historic trail that follows the footsteps of 1,490 emigrants, 2/3 of them being children, who were forced to walk this route in 1847, also known as Black 47, due to the mass deaths and evictions that occurred. The trail was the first challenge of their journey to what they hoped would be a new life in Canada. Their story is commemorated by bronze shoe sculptures along the route leading from the National Famine Museum in Strokestown, County Roscommon, to the Jeanie Johnson Famine Ship and Epic Irish Emigration Museum in Dublin. 1 million people died of hunger and disease. Another 2 million emigrated on what were known as coffin ships, as some passengers never survived the journey to their new home. In Grosse Ile, Quebec, Canada, there is the largest famine memorial site outside Ireland. The monument bears the inscription, "In this secluded spot lie the mortal remains of 5,424 persons who, fleeing from pestilence and famine in Ireland in the year 1847, found in America but a grave." In 1997, British Prime Minister Tony Blair stated, "Those who governed in London at the time failed their people through standing by while crop failure turned into massive human tragedy." Thankfully, Ireland and England's relationship has strengthened and healed over time. Although we never forget our history, we must also move forward and continue to build upon a better future with our closest neighbour, so that the past will never, must never be repeated. The countries who helped Ireland during the Great Famine were India, who raised donations all over their country. America raised funds and sent vessels with food. The Quakers, who set up soup kitchens. The Islamic State leader of the Ottoman Empire, who sent financial aid and 3 ships packed with food. The Caribbean nations, who included formerly enslaved people who had only achieved full freedom in 1838, and the Native Americans, the Choctaws, who raised funds, and today a sculpture called Kindred Spirit stands in County Cork as a reminder of what the Choctaw people did for Ireland. They too had suffered from starvation 16 years prior to the Irish famine, when they faced the Trail of Tears. All this and more is the reason I brought you to the famine graveyard.
Hello, welcome to this episode of Strange Happenings. We're here in Mullingar at the Famine Graveyard. Not too far away, we also have the workhouse, which featured in one of our previous videos. I'll link that in the description. We're here just to see if we can continue a communication that I got on one of the baseline tests that I had here, and without me realizing, the EMF went off. I heard a noise behind me and I turned around and I completely missed the EMF going off. It was the only signal that I actually got, the only communication. So I think it definitely meant we had to come back and investigate further. So we're going to see if we get anything. We've got our REM pod with us and we're going to set that up and we're going to just place it somewhere maybe that's out of our reach, so we have no interaction with it whatsoever. If anyone wants to touch it or make it go off, if there's a spirit or entity that wants to manipulate it, it's going to sound off and it'll let us know that there is a spirit around. So as usual, we have our EMF reader and we've got our quartz crystal as well. The reason we use a quartz crystal is because we find that it actually helps communication when we're trying to contact spirits. If there's anybody here that wishes to communicate with us, you can come closer and you can make this device flash to communicate with us. We're speaking out to anyone that was here during the famine times, anyone that remembers what it was like to be here during the famine. We know that the workhouse is close. We know that many people died there, and were brought here, and to the Cholera graveyard as well. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak with us. I remember when I was here last, I walked around the boundary of the graveyard. Do you want us to walk around the graveyard? Is there a location where we could have stronger communication with you?
Maybe we should try walking around anyway.
Maybe so. Oh. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Can I ask, are you a male? Were you a female? Were you a child? Did you pass away here?
Oh, it did flash.
It did flash there. You did. Were you brought to the Famine graveyard? Were you brought to the Famine graveyard? Did you used to work in the workhouse? You did. Thank you so much for speaking with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And can you tell us, did you work in the workhouse during the famine times? Or did you work in the workhouse before the famine times? You did. Was the workhouse, in your opinion, was the workhouse a good place to be? Was the workhouse a bad place to be? It was.
When entering the workhouse, families were separated. Children were taken from their parents. Those who were under 2 years of age stayed with their mother. Those older would be segregated, never to see their mother and father again. In 1851, 91,000 child inmates served in the workhouses. The authorities enforced child separation as they believed it would reduce the likelihood of them being paupers in the future. Children received little food and brutal discipline. A visitor to Kilrush Workhouse stated, "The children were mere skeletons with no flesh on their bones."
Thank you so much for talking with us. We really, really appreciate it. You were saying that you worked in the workhouse, and that was before the famine. You also said it was a bad place to be. It was. Can you tell us were you separated from your family when you went into the workhouse? Did you have any family? You did. If I move the EMF reader to the location, you can make this device flash to let me know what location you're standing in. You can make it flash to let me know where you're standing, and we can actually go out toward you wherever you are. So I'm just gonna move this way. Okay, so nothing here. You can just let us know what. Oh, okay. You're right there. You're in front of us. Okay. Thank you. We know that people would have been separated when they went into the workhouse. Would you have been separated from your loved ones? Yeah. Are you the man that I seen in my dream? That I seen in my dream? I keep thinking that this is the man that I seen I seen as I was going to sleep, and you were standing here in the middle of the graveyard, and your clothes were grey. And you were just standing. You had rags on. Your clothes were torn. Is this you? Is this the man I'm communicating with? If it is you, can you make this device flash again, just to acknowledge and validate that I did see you. You were wearing grey, torn clothes. You're bald. You had tears in your eyes. We mean no disrespect. We just were looking to see if there was any spirits from this place or reside in this place that wanted to communicate with us, and find out more about the history, your history, if you were willing to speak with us. I feel now that, like, this is the second person. There's someone here now that's a female. That was a female. Were you female when you were alive? You can make this device flash to let us know. There's definitely a woman here now. You can make this device flash to let us know that you're here. Definitely a woman, and she has a scarf. I can see, like, she has a scarf on her head, a shawl, big dress, long dress. There, Andrew. There, it just went off. If that was you that just made that device flash, thank you so much. Thank you. Can you tell us, were you a female? Are you female? Are you male? You just made this device flash. Thank you so much. You can make this device flash to communicate with us. My name's Colin. This is Andrew. We'd love to know more about you and your story, about your life here. Can you tell us, did you work here? Were you from here? Did you live in Mullingar? Do you want us to move forward to the cross? And just like that, it is like passing through, isn't it? Spirit's just passing through. Yeah, it flashed that time too. Yeah. Did you work in the workhouse? You did. Hello. Can you tell us, did you make things in the workhouse? Did you build things? Were you brought here? You were brought here. And can you tell us, were you brought here when you had passed? Were you brought here when you were still alive? Were you buried here in this location? Did you die of hunger? You did. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Thank you.
Today, in the year 2022, hunger is still a problem. It was reported that 768 children in Westmeath rely on food aid. Councillor and charity worker Ken Smollen, who set up the Ken Smollen Food Appeal, states he just wants to make sure children are not going hungry, and he knows mothers who are fainting from lack of food. In O'Connell Street, there are long queues, depending on the charity workers, the Muslim Sisters of Éire, who are feeding the hungry. Without charity organisations like this, people, children, would starve. If you'd like to donate to these charities, you can find them on Facebook or follow the links in the description. While communicating with the spirits of the Famine graveyard, our microphone picked up on many EVPs, electric voice phenomenon, that seemed to be responding to our questions. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and remember, strange is beautiful.